Future Talk.
This is Future Talk
with Omnial Saleh and Hani Balkis.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Sunday. This is the very last week we get to say happy Sunday. Every other week from now on, we're going to be saying happy Monday. Hope you're all having a blessed afternoon, have had a great weekend and a relaxing one. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone who celebrates it. And we are very excited right here on Future Talk to give you the latest on what is happening in the tech world, in the UAE, and all around the world. Today's news is all about what happened this weekend. The world's most powerful space telescope was launched yesterday, and we're very excited to give you the latest developments about it. Coming up on today's show as well, we're talking all about getting to truly experience food by using our TV. For the longest time, one of the biggest drawbacks of watching cooking shows and watching food shows has been the fact that you can't taste the food. It looks so good, but you have no way of tasting it. Yet one Japanese professor decided to take things and matters into his very own hands, and he created a flavorful screen. How does the screen work, and can we now truly taste food even behind a screen? You gotta stay tuned to find out more about that as well. We're also going to be hosting a group of intelligent students, extremely intelligent students right here from the heart of Sharjah. Ali Sadid and Arian Saghafifar are actually going to be joining us to tell us all about their great project that they actually worked on that was portrayed during Design Week right here in the UAE. They created an affordable housing unit set on the campus of the American University of Sharjah that can temporarily accommodate a lot of the students and a lot of the visiting professors that come to campus. We're going to be talking about how their design is actually integrated with virtual reality. How can any client now actually experience the house that they're about to live in even before it's done being built? We're also going to be joined by Professor Zlatan Filopovic, who's actually going to be telling us all about his own project when it comes to incorporating virtual reality and architectural design. He created a VR experience of Al Jazeera Al Hamra, and we're going to be getting to know a little bit more details about it and how we can celebrate the UAE heritage by using virtual reality. We've got a very exciting show ahead of us, so make sure you stay tuned right here on Pulse 95, only on Future Talk.
Daily digital news. Bits and bytes connect our world.
A moment that has been decades in the making. This weekend was a very, very special one because we witnessed the launch of the world's most powerful space telescope. This has been something that has been in the making. It has endured years of delays. A combination of factors actually caused its delay. Some of them were impacted by the pandemic, others were technical challenges. Yet now we can finally say the world's most powerful, complex space observatory will get to answer some of the questions that no one has ever been able to answer about our solar system. This telescope will be able to study exoplanets in new ways and look deeper into the universe than we have ever been able to before. The one and only telescope goes by the name James Webb Space Telescope. It was finally launched at 7:20 a.m. Eastern Time yesterday, and we are very excited about its launch because, as I've mentioned, it's going to be able to answer a lot of the questions that researchers have never been able to answer before, and we're very excited to get a little bit of a peek into the atmospheres of exoplanets. Some of them may actually have potential habitats for us human beings, and we could potentially uncover clues in the ongoing search for life outside of Earth. We've seen a lot of missions so far being launched to the Red Planet to get to explore if we could potentially have a habitable settlement on the surface of Mars by the year 2117. Yet sending this flaming rocket ride basically represents a year-end gift, a gift to science that we can give before 2022, brings its existence. And for this mission to succeed, it had to actually execute an intricate series of many maneuvers that scientists have been working on for years now during its first month in space. Even a single misstep could potentially compromise the entire mission. The telescope has to perform its devilishly difficult dance far beyond the reach of human hands. So we can only witness it, doing what we've made sure it's been practicing for many years now. But it's a very high risk and a very high payoff program, according to NASA's Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy, who did say that they had very long and hard weeks before its launch, but it looks like it's going to be working just fine. The risk is definitely worth this reward, because it's actually going to be transforming the view of the cosmos and of ourselves. It's going to be telling the story of the universe from a few beats after it's radiant, and who knows, we may just be able to find out exactly why and how the universe was created. Hopefully may answer questions on what can we expect from different planets, could we expect life on a different ones, and hopefully get an answer to the big old Big Bang Theory that a lot of people have had in mind. Some people agree with it, others feel like it's fake and it doesn't have any, truth to it. Yet the telescope's final stop on Earth before it left was actually the Guiana Space Center in French Guiana. It was an expensive launch complex that was bordered on one side by the tangled Amazonian jungle and on the other side by the Atlantic Ocean. NASA is responsible for the bulk of the mission's $10 billion bill. It is a very expensive telescope, but it's definitely worth the price that they paid for it, because it is one of the humankind's most ambitious projects that's going to be hitting many birds with one stone. It has a big budget, yet at the same time, we're looking for big questions being answered. So I'm very excited to see how this telescope is going to be answering our questions and what knowledge is it going to be bringing back to researchers right here on Earth. In the month leading up to its launch, actually, it suffered a lot of mishaps and a lot of complications that may have even delayed it for yet another time. But luckily, all these mishaps were resolved and the launch was able to take place yesterday at 7:20 a.m. Let us know if you're just as excited for the different questions it's going to be able to answer for us fellow humans back here on Earth. And what question would you be looking forward to getting an answer from this telescope? Personally, I feel like I want to find out if we're going to be able to survive on any other planet. It's a question that many scientists have been looking at for an answer for many years now. Some said Mars is going to be the awaited planet. Others said maybe Venus, maybe Jupiter, but who knows? Maybe this telescope will be able to give us the right answer. Coming up on today's show, I'm very excited about our next story because we're talking all about food and flavorful screens. If you've loved watching some of the most well-known cooking shows and MasterChef, you will want to tune in and find out what one Japanese professor was able to do so that he could potentially taste what is being cooked on the other side of the screen. Keep Pulse 95 locked. We'll be right back.
Check this out. Check this out. Pulse 95.
How many times have you watched cooking shows or food videos and all you could think about is, if only I could taste what is behind the screen? And it's so frustrating sometimes because a lot of the times we'd be watching these videos when it's late at night. We are so hungry, we just don't have the energy, or we're just lazy. We don't want to recreate the food that's being made behind the screen, whether it was TikTok, food shows, MasterChef, you name it. We've always wanted to taste the food that is being portrayed behind the screen. And one Japanese professor had the exact same thought, yet he decided to take matters into his own hands by creating a prototype lickable TV screen. A lot of you may be thinking, this is so not COVID friendly, and I agree with you. Yet he also thought about that COVID aspect because it's actually very hygienic if you want to think about it, because what he did is basically imitate the food flavors that are being portrayed on the screen. It's another step towards creating a multi-sensory viewing experience. It's a device that is known as Taste the TV. And it basically uses a carousel of 10 different flavor canisters that spray in combination to give you, or to kind of recreate the taste of the particular food that you are watching at the moment. The flavor sample then rolls on a hygienic film over a flat TV screen so that you as a viewer can go ahead and try it. Now, in the COVID-19 era, this kind of technology could potentially be life-changing because it could basically change the way people connect and interact with the outside world, yet at the same time make it as safe as possible, because it kind of gives you the same experience as eating at a restaurant on the other side of the world, even if you're just staying at home. You don't have to travel to Paris to be able to taste the baguettes, because you can taste it in the comfort of your very own home through your Taste the TV gadget. Now, the name of the researcher is actually Mia Shetta, and he worked with a team of about 30 students that have created a variety of flavor-related devices. One of them is actually a fork. This fork can make the food that you're eating taste a lot more rich. So it's not his first gadget that he's ever created that revolves around tasting the flavor of food. And he actually created the prototype of this TV about a year ago. And the commercial version would cost about 100,000 yen, which is basically approximately $875 to be able to make it. Yeah, in my opinion, I feel like that is so worth what you're getting. Imagine you're watching a pizza show and you can taste the pizza that is currently being made, or chocolate, or a slice of toasted bread, you name it. So the spray technology can basically work on a variety of food, and he hopes to make a platform where you can taste food from around the world. All you have to do is download that specific flavor, and the spray canisters can reproduce it seamlessly, just like you would remix music in different genres. Now you can actually go ahead and remix the different flavors of the food. One interesting aspect is when people go ahead and try it out, it's always what he describes, it's a very weird experience to them, because they never thought you can automate the flavors. You can actually play around with how they are reproduced. So I want to ask everyone, 4215, if you had a chance to taste one plate, one flavor from anything that you've ever watched. It could be something on TikTok. It could be a plate that you've seen on any of the cooking shows or food competitions, MasterChef, you name it. What is one thing that you wish you could taste without having to recreate yourself? If I'm going to give a quick answer, I think it would be creme brulee. I've tasted creme brulee before, but I remember as a kid watching it on MasterChef, I've always been like, what does that taste like, And I would love to give my younger self the experience of being able to do that. Let me know what are your favorite dishes that you'd love to try out by using this Taste the TV gadget. Coming up on today's show, we've got a very exciting story also about getting to experience things even if you're not physically there, because a group of students from the American University of Sharjah have been able to allow different people to experience architectural designs by simply using virtual reality.
Check this out. Check this out. Oh, 95.
No matter how beautiful a certain design is, it will never be able to fully convey the scope and the feel of a project unless you're actually physically there to be able to experience it. For years, architects have been designing different things, using different programs, but clients and people on the outside have never been able to experience them until they're actually built in real life. Yet, if architects would be able to adopt virtual reality, things would change dramatically. We've constantly seen VR being used in gaming consoles and gaming systems, but now we are seeing them being repurposed in a totally different way. A couple of students at the American University of Sharjah, Ali Sadir, Arian, Saghafifar, and Muhammad Fakhri have actually taken things into their own hands, and they've created their very own work by incorporating it with virtual reality. So what they've done is create an immersive experience. They've created a housing system for visiting professors so that they can actually go ahead and stay in those places. But until the prototype was developed, people could experience it by using virtual reality. Today, they're joining us live in the studios to tell us a little bit more about their projects. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So first off, I think everyone is excited to kind of get to know a little bit about what is the design of this project and what makes it so different. How did you get the idea of using VR to allow people to feel and witness this project?
So when we think about VR, usually it's a more of a representative technique. Mm-hmm. We're not actually in designing the project with VR, we're actually using it to envision the space or provide a better idea for the client to actually see the project in 3 dimensions. So the client plays a big role in the design process. When we're thinking about architecture, the client has to look at 2D drawings and renders, but with VR they can actually see the space in 3 dimensions, and this gives them a better idea of how the space actually looks like. And when they give us feedback, we can actually see
incorporate it.
Yes, we can incorporate it in a better way. The criticism is more clear because of how they, because of
the way they're able to experience it.
Exactly. They have a better understanding of how the project looks like, or the space looks like in 3 dimensions.
100%.
And, no matter how beautiful the render looks like, it still doesn't convey the full scope of the project and the feeling of it. So the extended reality would help us to kind of as a new paradigm. So it's like adding the sound, touch, and depth and emotion even to the project itself.
That's an interesting aspect. You said adding touch and depth. So how can people actually, are they able to like they would feel like they're touching it, but they're not actually touching anything?
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's as if they have some. So they can interact with. So they're no longer an observer, but they can have interactions, and this gives them the full experience.
That's amazing. Can you walk us through the design of this housing unit? What does it look like? Maybe we can get to experience it through your very own words.
So when we were thinking about how we could approach this project was designed last year with association with Professor Hughes. It was a design-build project. We were meant to build the project, but because of because of the pandemic situation, we didn't have the budget. So the idea of the project was to keep it as sustainable and as affordable to build on campus of AUS, American University of Sharjah, and one of the ways was to make it sustainable is. So when we talk about sustainability, we mainly are talking about ecology or how we could better the environment. But one thing that usually is missed is how we could make it more affordable, or how could waste management play a role into building the project. So when we were looking through good materials to use for the project, we saw that there was a lot of wasted curb bricks on the campus because there was a lot of construction. The AUS campus is always growing, it's always evolving. Exactly. So we were like, what happens if we took these curb bricks and actually made them, we used them into a project? So we would have a free or like somewhat free source of material to use for the project, and we ended up using this material to create a perimeter wall. And then inside this perimeter wall, there's 3 main units. One is a bathing space, one is a washing space, and one is a resting space. And then between each of these units, another sustainability technique that we used was having really tight corridors or alleyways between each unit. And this was a throwback to how we have sikas in the UAE, those really tight alleyways in towns and villages. And when you're in these sikas, you always feel really cool. It's always shaded. There's a really good passive ventilation or airflow within these alleyways, and that really inspired us to incorporate it into the project, these really tight corridors to help with ventilation.
That is amazing.
Thank you. And the other ways we used, other sustainable ways we used was looking at the sun path across the year. So how the sun projects itself on the site, and we use that technology or that method to figure out what is the best, most optimal way to place openings like windows or
roofs
shading,
or like open.
Yeah, exactly, like shading the places. And yeah.
That's amazing. And I'm sure a lot of people are actually excited to find out a little bit more about what inspired the idea and the potential of VR in the future. We're going to be taking a short break, but if you have any questions for the students, please make sure you share them with us at 4215.
Future Talk. This is Future Talk.
with Omnial Saleh and Hani Balkis.
For the longest time, whenever we talk about the heritage and the culture of the UAE, some people around the world have always been astonished. What does it look like? What does it feel like? And as much as you can explain it to them, it's a totally different thing when they can get to experience it for themselves. Today, we're talking about getting to celebrate the heritage and the culture of the UAE by incorporating virtual reality with architectural design. One professor at the American University of Sharjah, Zlatan Filopovic, has actually been able to create his very own VR experience of the UAE heritage site Al Jazeera Al Hamra, and it was actually featured in a very famous exhibition right here in the UAE. Today, he's going to be joining us, tell us a little bit more about his project and how he was able to incorporate VR with architecture. Thanks a lot for joining us, Professor.
Omnia, great to be with you here in Future Talk on Radio Pulse 95, and it's a pleasure to be here. Well, as you said, over the past few years, I've been working on a number of VR and augmented reality experience designs, trying to tap into the rich cultural heritage of the UAE. Visiting Jazeera Al Hamra especially was always kind of like an amazing experience because it is one of the rarely preserved kind of architectural settings of the original pre-oil kind of architecture and lifestyle in the UAE, and one of the rare ones in the Gulf altogether. Mm-hmm. And so this has really kind of inspired me to think about the ways of how I could kind of contribute to the preserving of the current state and the ways of how the new development and restoration process of this is going. And together with Professor Sohail Dakhdal from American University of Sharjah as well, College of Arts and Sciences, we've pitched with a project and have been working on this for over the 3 last years, culminating with a presentation at the Design Dubai Week, as you mentioned a moment ago.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be very, very interesting to walk through the design with you. How does it look like? How were you able to kind of portray the heritage, and what aspects did you focus on to help the viewer get to experience Al Jazeera Al Hamra?
Yeah, I mean, one of the really biggest, tasks in any kind of production of the VR or augmented reality, for that matter, is the content creation. Mm-hmm. And I think that was really the biggest challenge at first. Some 6-7 years ago, when I started exploring and experiencing researching the new ways of photogrammetric reconstructions of the three-dimensional models, mm-hmm. Immediately I thought about cultural heritage sites in Sharjah as well, in Ras Al Khaimah. Mm-hmm. And the first project we worked on was actually situated focused on Wadi Al Halo, amazing kind of a valley in the kind of Al-Hijr mountains towards Qalba in the Sharjah, Emirate of Sharjah. And that was the first project we actually kind of tested with the construction or reconstruction using photogrammetric technologies of the towers that were restored over there, helping the Sharjah Gateway to Crucial States initiative to pitch and prepare the applications for the UNESCO World Heritage. Mm-hmm. And so through that project, we've kind of tested the linear technologies of small scale model presentations, but also explored the potential of one-to-one real scale experience with the object of the cultural heritage.
Absolutely.
That has led later to the really kind of like a more focused documentation of the architectural kind of structures focused on Al Jazeera Al Hamra primarily, but also related to some other, let's say, habitats or places where Al-Zabi tribe used to kind of reside in certain parts of a year, namely Al-Khat as the kind of like hot springs area and the farming area for the Al-Zabi members. So this is where we were in a period of the last, let's say, from 2018, late 2018 through early 2020, we were able to scan and create 3D models of approximately 45 structures, and then filter them out and prepare them for integration into the VR, focusing primarily on the defense structures of the Jazeera al-Hamra, the 3 towers, together with the main Hisn, as well as the 2 amazingly restored merchant houses, Abdul Karim's merchant house and Amran merchant house on the island.
Absolutely. That's amazing. One question that comes to mind whenever we're talking about VR is the equipment that's going to be needed and that's going to be used. So how will this technology change the way architectural designs are envisioned? Yet at the same time, can we make it using the least budget possible? Are we going to need a lot of expensive equipment to be able to experience this technology?
As you've said, Omnia, exactly. The scalability and the ways of presentation of these virtual and augmented reality kind of a content is the main question. And what we worked on, and part of our research, besides collecting these mini stories and preserving also the oral kind of heritage, was to really try to optimize the 3D models that we've generated. Because once we utilize the photogrammetric processes, we end up having super heavy point cloud kind of a meshes and point cloud kind of a data sets that range in kind of a gigabytes of data. And that is just not kind of immediately applicable and viewable on the standard kind of even headphones or headsets that we have for either PC powered or VR powered PCs or standalone headsets. So through the process, working with student researchers from the computer science programs, we've developed a nice workflow of optimizing the models and kind of scaling them down to be presented from smartphones in an augmented reality, through tablets, through standalone VR headsets that are now relatively easily accessible, right, in the range of approximately 1,500 dirhams or something like that, all the way to the super high-end kind of computers that can run higher res modes of presentation of these data sets that we've collected. So we've kind of paid attention to really kind of cater for different types of audiences with different technical, let's say, equipment availability.
That's amazing. And I've actually gotten a chance to see some of the work that was done. And I must say it was amazing because you can even incorporate audio with it. You can get a little bit of a history on what you're witnessing, which is amazing when it comes to people around the world getting to experience the heritage of the UAE. Last but not least, I want to actually hear from you. What do you believe VR in architectural design will look like 5, 10, 15 years down the line? What do you envision for it?
When you say 5, 10, or 15, that's like almost like an eternity when we talk about the new technology as VR or extended or extended reality, as we talk about it more, mixed reality these days. So what I would say is, we've already in the curricular kind of structures of college architecture, art and design started exploring with the ways of how we can actually start creating content using VR technologies. And some of the platforms that we use in art and design department have really focused on teaching motion design or animation using these technologies. Amazing new platforms and softwares have emerged over the last 3 years. Anim VR as one of the kind of independent and small studio production has enabled, creation of the animated characters using the 2D animation style in VR. And some of these, I've managed to kind of create with my students and present at a couple of academic conferences. We're really kind of looking now into how presentation of the architectural models can be done. And one of the platforms we use definitely is Reflect for Unity game engine, through which we are able to kind of then port in and bring the 3D models and then showcase them on site with augmented reality with just the use of a simple tablet, or in more advanced kind of situations with augmented reality headsets like Microsoft's HoloLens. So the future is kind of now, and bringing these into our academic and curricular kind of workflows, I would say our students are very soon going to be kind of coming out and being ready to fully engage the needs of the moment.
Absolutely, and we definitely have some of those students right here in the studios. Associate Professor of Multimedia Design, Dr. Zlatan Filopovic, it's been a great honor to get to speak to you today. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Likewise, Omnia, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Check this out. Check this out. Pulse 95.
Combining virtual reality with architectural designs has been creating an immersive experience for people to get to actually kind of have a real life taste and real life touch and feel to what a certain design would look like even before it comes to life. Many students from the American University of Sharjah's College of Architecture, Art and Design are actually embracing new ways to present their work to the public. As part of the 2040 D3 Architecture Exhibition at Dubai Design Week, AUS graduates Ali Sadr, Arian Saghafifar and Muhammad Fakhri have actually presented their work entitled Monolithic Inhabitation that was developed during their final year of studies. But they've also actually worked on another project that has a lot to do with refugees that we are very excited to get to learn a little bit more about. Can you talk to us a little bit more about it, Arian?
So we also designed the artificial refugee ecosystems, which is kind of a partial life. We took a different approach of sustainability in this project, so when we talk about sustainability, people would usually think, okay, it's about covering the facade with plants, but that's just superficial, and we took a deeper approach to this. And we were studying the relationship between nature and architecture, so which is kind of like a long-standing relationship, and it's nothing new. So nature was always a model to architects, so we went beyond biomimicry, and we integrated bionic thinking in our architecture. As I said, this project was in Sabha, Abu Dhabi Sabha, and it has a rare site condition of crystallization, which was the most valuable feature to us. And the project was expanding and adapting and evolving, kind of dissolving also with the nature through the time, and at the end becoming part of the nature itself.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of becoming part of it.
Absolutely. We want to learn more a little bit about how can the VR technology change the way architecture is done. For the longest time, whenever we think about architecture and the programs, we think of AutoCAD, and that's basically it. But how can VR change this reality a little bit?
So I think VR in future, let's consider it as MR more because
mixed
it's like
reality.
Mixed reality. Yeah, so it's AR, VR together, and already it's we can see that they're using it in constructional approaches like construction techniques, maybe for complex forms or for the construction even. And in the future, let's just consider how it changes architecture. So with the help of an access of 3D printing and 3D scanning and the extended reality, the complexity becomes the question. So what is complex? Because it is as fast as possible to create a complex form as a simple form. So it's easy to read a complex design as a simple design. So maybe the future would move toward minimal, especially with the issues with the challenges of sustainability and also the post-COVID issues. So probably we would have minimal approaches, but maybe the virtual reality could be integrated for as a side thing. So it could add to the architecture, and the architects would design the virtual reality and the AR kind of part of it. So it's like a virtual architecture in the future.
I have a question for you, Ali. What is one piece of advice you'd give to all incoming CAD students who maybe have always wanted to try out, incorporating VR with architectural design, but may have been a bit afraid of the tech aspect of it? What is one piece of advice you'd give them?
I'd say don't be afraid. It's a very simple it's very simple to incorporate VR into your architecture. It's only you stopping yourself. It's if the software you're using allows you to actually use, or it gives you the ability to use VR into your projects. So just step into that realm. Don't be afraid, and see what you can come up with.
Absolutely. Very wise words. I think a lot of people can actually make the most out of this in all forms of tech, because some people can definitely be afraid whenever we talk about incorporating tech in our day-to-day life. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've truly enjoyed our conversation with you.
Thank you so much for it.
To everyone tuning in to us right now, Future Talk is coming to an end, but we want to wish you a beautiful day. Make sure you keep Pulse 95 locked, because coming up at 4 p.m. is Afternoon Karak with the one and only Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Atiyah, giving you a quick roundup of everything pop culture, what movies and shows are trending at the moment, and some special reviews of those as well. We'll see you once again tomorrow, same time, same place, only here on Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of Future Talk, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse 95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.